The morning I decided to raise the lake, I made 2 phone calls. One to the sheriff, one to my lawyer. Because by sunset, 139 luxury cabins were going to learn a very simple lesson. Water doesn't negotiate, and neither do I. My name doesn't matter. What matters is that my family has owned this mountain valley for over 100 years. Not investor-owned, not developer-owned, not leveraged and flipped. Owned. My great-grandfather, Elias Rowan, bought 2,000 rocky Appalachian acres when nobody wanted them. He wasn't a farmer, he was a civil engineer. He saw something everyone else missed. 3 creeks converging into a narrow gorge. He built a stone dam there in 1928. Hand-cut masonry. Gravity-fed spillway. Over-engineered beyond reason. It created a 700-acre lake, Rowan Lake. The deed passed down through generations, along with something more important, riparian rights. The lake bed, the shoreline, the water. Mine. For decades, we kept to ourselves, maintained the dam, paid taxes, enjoyed silence, till the developers arrived. 3 years ago, Summit Crest Development bought the parcel bordering mine. They built a gated community, Silver Ridge Estates. The brochure called it luxury living with private lake views. That lake was mine. At first, I didn't care. People want nice views. Fine. Then the emails started. The HOA president, let's call her Diane Holloway, introduced herself. Polished. Expensive. Confident in the way people get when they've never been told no. She sent newsletters referring to our beautiful community lake. Then she emailed me directly. My dock color was not within approved palette. I replied once, politely. Your authority ends at my property line. That should have been the end. It wasn't. A month later, I saw renderings in their newsletter. A beach, a fishing pier, a kayak launch, all positioned on my shoreline. I thought it was a mistake.
Out.
Then I checked county records. They had filed a new survey. The boundary line had shifted just slightly. Just enough to absorb 50 acres of my shoreline. Subtle, professional-looking, stamped, but wrong. Very wrong. I spent an entire weekend reshooting the boundary using my own GPS rover, centimeter-level accuracy. The new plat didn't match a single historical deed. Later, I learned the surveyor had faced disciplinary action. That was when I realized something. This wasn't confusion. This was strategy. I sent a formal cease and desist through my attorney. Diane responded at the next HOA meeting. She called it harassment, told homeowners I was a disgruntled neighbor trying to obstruct progress. They applauded. Bulldozers arrived the following Monday. I called the sheriff. He looked at both surveys. Civil matter, take it to court, exactly what she wanted. Court dates were 6 months out. 6 months. And in those 6 months, she escalated. Hard. Phase 2. The Pinnacle Cabins. 139 rustic luxury waterfront retreats. Prefabricated. Concrete slab foundations, electrical, plumbing, stacked tight along the shoreline. My shoreline? Her gamble? By the time court arrived, the structures would be complete. Too expensive to remove. Judges don't demolish millions in development, usually. She made one fatal assumption. She thought she owned the shore. She forgot who controlled the water. In my great-grandfather's study, I found his engineering journal, handwritten. He wrote, "The lake's natural high water mark rests 7 feet above its maintained recreational level. The dam is engineered to withstand this elevation safely. 7 feet." I pulled topographical surveys. Every single one of Diane's 139 cabins sat between 3 and 6 feet below the natural high water line. They weren't on shoreline property. They were in the flood easement. Technically, in the lake bed, my deed granted me authority to adjust water levels for structural integrity and maintenance. Lawfully, slowly, safely. But I didn't act immediately, because raising the lake meant headlines, lawyers, chaos. I watched as construction crews installed furniture in cabins that legally shouldn't exist. I watched Diane pose for promotional photos on decks that were, by elevation, underwater territory. I'll admit something. For a moment, I wondered if I should just sell or walk away, let them have it. But then I stood at the dam one evening at sunset, ran my hand across the original stone. Thought about Elias Rowan hauling rock by hand in 1928. This wasn't about ego. This was about stewardship. Some lines you don't sell, you defend. We drafted one final notice, certified mail, clear language. The lake would be temporarily raised to its documented natural high water mark for structural inspection and safety compliance. 48 hours to vacate the flood easement. Silence. Furniture trucks arrived the next morning. They thought I was bluffing. At 9 a.m., 48 hours later, I walked into the dam gallery. Cold concrete, iron wheel valves, manual controls, deliberate engineering. This wasn't sabotage. It was procedure. I began turning the first wheel, hundreds of rotations, metal groaning to life. Then the second. The outflow reduced. The creeks kept feeding as the lake began to rise, slowly, invisibly, relentlessly. By noon, the water touched the lowest lawns. By 2 p.m., it reached the concrete slabs. Construction crews stopped laughing. By 4 p.m., cabin decks were islands. Electrical shorts flickered, pallets floated. It wasn't violent, no roaring flood, just a calm rising inevitability. Diane arrived in her white SUV, hands on hips, shouting, pointing at the water like she could command it back. She called the sheriff. He came, walked up my driveway again. I handed him certified notice receipt, deed specifying riparian rights, engineering documents showing flood easement, operational manual. I told him calmly, I'm performing lawful dam maintenance.
Oh.
Those structures sit inside the documented flood zone. He looked down at the submerged cabins, then at Diane's civil matter. Again, the water kept rising. By nightfall, 4 full rows were underwater. 139 violations. Rectified. Insurance investigated. Claims were denied due to construction inside a known flood easement. Homeowners sued the developer. Developers sued the contractor. Board members resigned. Diane was voted out within weeks. Summit Crest Development quietly dissolved the LLC tied to the project. Litigation followed, but the paper trail was clean. Certified notice, elevation data, operational logs, maintenance justification. Eventually, a settlement was reached. Funds allocated for demolition and environmental restoration. The cabins were removed. All of them. It took almost a year. When the water returned to its standard level, nothing remained but graded earth. Today, native grasses cover that shoreline. Young oaks are growing again. Birdsong replaced generators. Sometimes, new residents from Silver Ridge paddle past in kayaks. They wave. Respectfully, they understand something now. The lake is beautiful, but it is not a commodity. It is engineered history. It is gravity. It is consequence. I never set out to win. I set out to protect what was entrusted to me. There's a difference between aggression and stewardship, between power and authority, between building on land and understanding it. Diane tried to redraw a line on paper, but some lines are drawn in stone, and some are drawn in water. And water always remembers where it belongs.